The nature of log-grown shiitake is like you have to nurture these logs by hand. So like the logger has to be willing to like gently handle them, pick them up, move them. They can't drag them out of the woods like they would with timber or firewood. From that point to whenever they're inoculated, and even through their whole life, they have to be handheld so that you don't damage the bark or the log, because that can reduce the productivity of it. So if you were to like walk into a grocery store, most of the shiitakes that you find are grown on sawdust blocks, sometimes called synthetic logs, and they're grown indoors. And a lot of those these days are coming from overseas. So those logs are often made and then shipped over and then fruited in the US, and that's been a cause of some controversy. I mean, this whole journey began because organizations that we were partnering with wanted logs and couldn't find them.
We've tried working with parks and working with some other private landowners to see if we can get access to logs. It's just very challenging in New York City to get access to the right size logs, the right types of logs.
And we looked around the city to try to source logs sort of from within the city, but that proved really complicated. And then we thought a lot about the possibility of sourcing logs upstate. And I mean, we're basically trying to look at the opposite of what is like a disconnected global economy to something that's really deeply connected and local. And so that was the starting point for the project, and then people started showing up, the right people, to connect all the dots.
I do mushroom logs because it is yet another excuse to spend a day out in the woods. Done properly, it's a symbiotic relationship really, because you cannot, if you look at the trees that are around me and behind me, they're way too thick for any of these trees to grow healthy. Then you need to go in and thin trees to select the winners and pick the ones that are going to be losers anyway, and cut them out before they're dead, allow the other trees to grow up healthy and straight and strong. So it has to be a balance, and mushroom logs help with that balance.
What the Schooner Apollonia does is it moves freight and cargo up and down the Hudson River, and it delivers it using the power of the wind. Sail freight, for most people, seems like a relic of the past, right? And for us, we are convinced that it's actually an intelligent solution for right now and the future. And so that's the whole purpose of Apollonia, is to start moving cargo with the wind, start conversations, start dialogue, encourage others to join us. And so we need cargoes that if they take 4 days to get there, that's okay, right? And so at the same time, we really want to get cargoes on the boat that, that create benefit in as many ways as possible. And the mushroom logs is probably one of the best examples of that. We're connecting sustainable forestry practices up in the Catskills with community engagement workshops here in Kingston at the Maritime Museum. Then we are traveling down the Hudson River to deliver these, to do more education and workshops down in Brooklyn, but at the end of that, most importantly, actually grow food and medicine. And so this is such a cool thing where we can actually transport, something that is legitimately challenging to find and hard to transport right to where it needs to be.
The Community Mushroom Educator Project arose when talking about the need for more education and recognizing that there are a lot of different types of people and different types of communities that wanted to learn about mushrooms, and that people in those communities, working for organizations in those communities, were best suited to be the educators. And so what we did was launch the Community Educator Project, which trained up a number of folks in mushroom cultivation techniques. And so the goal was to see a more diverse group of folks confident in teaching others how to grow mushrooms, and doing that embedded in the communities that they live and work in.
The Mushroom Shed is a community-based project based in New Paltz, but we try to make mushroom cultivation more accessible. So we do that through community workshops and also kits. So something new that we're doing right now is we're designing these kits and videos for people to watch at home and follow along. And the kits all use materials that are resourced from the community. We get coffee from the local coffee shop, we get cardboard and even the buckets. So we take all of those resources that would otherwise end up in a landfill and we create kits for people to grow mushrooms on something that was going to get thrown away.
So today there's an amazing operation and we're inoculating around 250 logs for a lot of community gardens to grow in the area, other urban farms. Should be hundreds of pounds of mushrooms for the next several years.
Mushrooms are food and medicine, and the mycelial network can spread through the logs but also create its own networks. Like we have so many people here that I got to know through the mushrooms and through the program. So I think it can give a lot to community.
I'm taking logs to a community garden that is attached to Eastside Community High School and Middle School. When they fruit, the students are going to figure out how they can distribute it to the community in an equitable way. So that'll be part of our program for the after-school students next year.
I hope that folks learning about this see that the actual physical logs and the physical mushrooms that are going to be growing in the city over the next few years is exciting and is a good outcome, but that there's a larger story and conversation to be had, which is about how we take care of our woods, how we find the resources that we need to grow our food and medicine in a sustainable way, how we move materials around in a sustainable way, and how that in that process a lot of different livelihoods can be benefited, communities can be benefited, people can learn. And so this is just one example of the ways that can happen, and it takes a lot of different types of people. It's not just the farmers, it's got to be folks thinking about shipping and moving cargo, which I never thought about. It's got to be the loggers in the woods and kind of all the pieces coming together in order for us to have this work, into the future.